Welcome to the second hour of our program. He's the host of the Dean Obeidallah Show, 6 to 9 p.m. right here on Sirius XM Progress Radio Channel 127, a columnist for CNN.com, a contributor to the New Republic. He publishes a regular newsletter. It's called the Dean's Report over on Substack. I highly recommend it. I subscribe to it. It's free. You can sign up for it right there, deanobeidallah.substack.com, or just plug Dean's Report in and it'll pop right up. Dean Obeidallah also on Twitter. And all that sort of thing. Dean, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, and welcome back to North America after your amazing trip.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. It's been on our bucket list forever. We were going to try and get down there in 2006, but my dad got sick and died, and it kind of blew it up. But we've literally been saving for this trip since then.
Wow. Well, that's great. When you come back on my show, we'll have to talk about it more because it's really intrigued by it.
Okay. Yeah, but you published a piece on the Dean's Report, your newsletter, that I thought was absolutely fascinating. The real reason Trump is back to wanting to repeal Obamacare. And I think, a lot of people kind of understand this, but they don't understand it. Why don't you lay it out?
Sure. Well, my thesis is there are three reasons. But the bottom line is we all know Trump is motivated and animated by instinct. It's impulse. So his impulse is that I'm going to go against Obamacare because my base loves when I attack Obama, the first black president, and vow to erase the signature achievement of the first black president. So to me, there's that bucket right there, the white supremacist bucket. Donald Trump is the defender of whiteness. We know this. I don't have to go through the examples on the show. Everyone's aware of it. I think, secondly, it's the personal component that he's competitive with Obama. And he's angry. He will never be as successful. He'll never be as intelligent or as classy or elegant or anything Obama's done. He will never be that. And I think part of that goes to, all the way back to 2011, the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where Obama mocked him on the world stage. Everyone saw him being laughed at. And I think that kind of fueled the birther. The birther movement was going on then, but I think the birtherism, again, is part of Trump's competitiveness with Obama and his white supremacy. It was a racist campaign. We knew that. And third, to me, Tom, is that the one thing Trump does understand, and we all understand he fully gets it, is corporate media. And by talking about this, well, he knows the media will go chase it. They'll write articles about the guy was president for 4 years and never delivered. He promised fantastic health care and never delivered. And then what are they not talking about? Well, 91 felonies. The fact that Donald Trump is charged with north of 30 counts of the Espionage Act, of attempting a coup, that the man is out on bail. So when you're having discussions about policy issues, it helps normalize Donald Trump. And I think he understands that probably more than anything. Intuitively, he knows the corporate media will chase it. So to me, it's sort of a three-pronged approach. We talked about it on my show last night. People have other theories as well. But I found it, Tom, when he first mentioned it on social media, I thought, no big deal. Then he doubled down, tripled down. He talked about it Saturday at Iowa during his speech. So now it seems it actually is a plank in his 2024 campaign, and that's why I wrote that, to sort of dig down what's really going on here.
Race and healthcare in the United States have always been inextricably intertwined. You and I talked about this on your program when you had me on when I was plugging my book, The Hidden History of American Healthcare. And, back in the 1890s, you had Frederick Hoffman, traveling around the United States saying that blacks were genetically inferior. And so if white people just denied them access to health care, eventually that would, quote, solve the black problem, or solve the race problem in America because they'd all die out. And then you get to 1967 and Lyndon Johnson's putting together Medicare. And the white racist Southern, mostly Democratic at the time, but now they're Republicans, the Strom-Thurmond vote, the Dixiecrats, they came to him and they said, we don't want black people in the hospitals and we don't want black people showing up in the doctor's office, even, seniors. And so we want you to put a threshold in here that poor black people will not be able to leap over. And that's this 20% hole in, I believe it's Part B of Medicare. And that's why there's that 20% hole. That's why you had to buy a Medigap policy, was purely because the Southern white senators felt that would be the thing that, that would be just too much money for black people to spend, so they'd just stay out of the hospital and the doctor's office. I mean, there's just a huge, and obviously these two that I just touched on are just, the very tip of the iceberg. The Prudential company that Frederick Hoffman was a vice president of back in the 20s and 30s and 40s, right up to the 1960s, was charging black people, more for health insurance than white people. Or maybe it was life insurance, but for insurance anyway.
Sure.
So it's been around forever.
Yeah, and also with Donald Trump, I mean, I know there are people who listen to our discussion about like an issue like this and think, oh, what does race play a role? But I think they understand with Trump, race always plays a role.
Yeah.
And the idea of dismantling the singular achievement of the first black president, to me, that achievement and Obama's achievement is a threat to the myth of white superiority. It's not just white supremacy. It's sort of what you're getting at. This idea that intellectually, white people are superior to black people. That's the faux science that underlines, exactly, that's the faux science that underlines some of the rights movement, where they'll say, like when Trump talked about Obama never could have gotten to Columbia and Harvard Law School, I want to see his grades. Well, that's the subtle point underneath that, where Donald Trump attacked Maxine Waters' low IQ and other prominent black figures as being dumb and being low IQ. That, again, is part of that. It's a consistent theme. It's the same way that you see bigots on the right call people who are minorities who've gotten jobs as quota hires. I've been called a quota hire by a right-wing guy, Kurt Schlichter, who's an asshole. Excuse me for cursing.
Yeah,
but
we can't talk like that over here, but, you know.
Sorry about that. We'll have to beat that. I'm going to pay. It is free speech TV, isn't it?
We are on commercial stations, but I think Sean beeped it.
Thank goodness.
Anyway.
Thank you, Sean. I won't curse again. On my show, it's just like it's a sailor's rant.
Oh, I love coming on your show because I can swear. But anyway, back to the story.
So the point is, like, to these people, the fragile white supremacists on the right, black excellence really is a threat. It's why they want to ban black history in school, because black excellence is a threat. And there are certain people that on our side who might be white who fully don't appreciate that. I know you talk about it. We talk about it on my show a great deal. That motivates so much of this right-wing movement. So Trump could leave tomorrow. The white supremacy of this party remains, of course. It's vibrant. It's part of the animating factor of today's GOP.
I think it's the main thing that binds people to Donald Trump. And what astonishes me, Dean, is how rarely when the mainstream media does these man in the street interviews, or they love to go into diners or whatever, you know, and they interview these Trump supporters, they never ask them the questions, and you don't have to ask it just right up. I mean, you're not going to get an honest answer anyway. Hey, are you a racist? Are you supporting him because he hates black people? You know, obviously they're not going to answer that. But there are ways to frame the question, you know, like talking about affirmative action, for example. I mean, there's ways to frame the question that will elicit the hierarchy of priorities that these voters have that binds them to Trump. And I would be willing to bet, and you know, I'm generally not a betting man, but I would be willing to bet that race is number one and probably number two and number three for most of Trump's white supporters. I certainly see that. You know, the pieces that I've written over at Hartmann Report, for example, you know, that I post on, in particular, Twitter. I mean, Twitter's become a right-wing sewer recently. And,
it is.
And you know, I post something there calling Trump a racist, and I immediately get, you know, 50, 100 people saying, well, just name one thing he said that's racist, you know. And it's like, I'm not even going to engage with these trolls. You know, that's what they live for, right, as a response. But it is just so obvious that, you know, they know what's going on. They know what's going on.
Yeah, I had a listener call my show a few years ago who said Donald Trump makes him feel proud to be white again. And he wasn't even hiding it. And he didn't say it in a racist way. Yeah. That's the point. Because they'll say, well, there's Black Lives Matters. There's group for Latinos. There's groups for Muslim Americans. Well, I'm white, and now this white victimhood runs through the GOP. And there are studies that show that, and I'm sure you've seen them, in the last few years, as Trump got in office and through today, there are more people who are white Republicans who view white people as the biggest victim of discrimination, more so than black people. So this white victimhood's underneath it. That's why they don't want to hear about the suffering of other communities and discrimination against other communities, because now they feel like they're the number one victim. Well, they're still 70% of the country. But just seeing other faces that are not reflective of their own is a challenge. And that's, again, like the quota hire. I cursed when I got off my topic there. But the point of quota hire is, in their view, that the only way someone, a minority, can get a job over a white person is that you're a quota hire. You can never be as good as a white person. You're inherently inferior intellectually and every other way. That's what motivates them. So, Tom, I agree with you. I think the bond that people don't understand, why do they love Trump? He's a defender of whiteness. He's a defender of white civilization. He is their grand wizard. Yeah, and white supremacy. So that connection it's not about policy. It literally, he is their defender of whiteness, and they view him as the savior, holding off the barbarians at the gate that are all different colors coming into America who are living here.
Yeah.
It's not about policy.
No, I totally get it. We're talking with the great Dean Obeidallah. He's on Sirius XM Progress, 6 to 9 p.m. His newsletter is the Dean's Report over on Substack, and well worth your time signing up for it. Dean, we've got about a minute and a half here before we hit a hard break I can't control.
Sure.
And as speaking of minorities, I mean, you're a Muslim, and
I am.
And
you said that like an accusation, but I am.
And I believe your father's Palestinian, and
yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
So I'm curious your thoughts about what might happen to you. I mean, I wrote a piece a while back about, if Trump becomes president, I'll probably end up in jail, but not because of my race. I mean, I'm a Protestant white guy. But what impact do you think his second Trump presidency will have on the Muslim community in the United States?
Well, I think I will have the best radio show in the Muslim internment camp. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll be doing comedy there. I'll be quite popular. Look, if he gets...
You're being serious here, I'm guessing.
Well, I'm not really sure, because I think we're going to prevent that from happening. I think too many people believe in this experiment called the Democratic Republic of the United States of America. But look, there's a lot of, and I just wrote an article about it, it's going to go up tomorrow, the Muslim and Arab community upset with Joe Biden. There's even these handful of people starting this abandoned Biden campaign. I love that my community is pressuring Biden and every elected official to be responsive. Every minority community does that. I will push back against an abandoned Biden campaign because the stakes are really high with Donald Trump. I will say, if Trump is not the nominee on the right, I have more concerns for President Biden, because people in my community won't have the direct knowledge of what that person might do. Let's say if it's a Nikki Haley. But I do think it will be Donald Trump, and he is an existential threat to our everything we believe in.
And I'm not sure Nikki Haley isn't either. I mean, policy-wise, she's right there with Trump, right straight down the middle. And
she's awful. She's just not known as well. That's all.
Trump,
right. Everyone knows. You can't deny it.
That's right.
Like, he's awful.
Dean Obeidallah, the Dean's Report over on Substack. Check it out. Dean, thanks a lot for dropping by.
Thanks, Tom.
Good talking to you.